Maya Johnson pulled her worn jacket tighter around her shoulders as she climbed the marble steps of the Whitmore mansion. At 26, she had seen enough wealthy homes to know this one was different. The house stretched endlessly in both directions, with windows that seemed to glow like golden squares against the night sky. She pressed the doorbell and heard it echo through what sounded like a cathedral. The door opened to reveal Mrs. Catherine Whitmore, a woman in her early 30s with perfectly styled blonde hair and tired eyes. "You must be Maya," she said, stepping aside to let her in. "Thank goodness you're here. I'm absolutely desperate." Maya followed her through hallways lined with paintings that probably cost more than most people's cars. The floors were so polished she could see her reflection walking beside her. Crystal. Chandeliers hung from ceilings that seemed impossibly high, and fresh flowers filled vases that looked like they belonged in museums. "I should warn you," Mrs. Whitmore said as they climbed a grand staircase. "Emma has been having terrible nights lately. She's only 8 months old, but she seems to sense when I'm stressed." Her voice cracked slightly. "My husband travels constantly, for business, and our regular nanny quit last week without notice. I haven't slept more than 2 hours at a time in weeks." They reached the nursery, and Maya immediately felt the difference in atmosphere. Unlike the rest of the house, this room felt warm and lived in. Soft yellow walls were decorated with hand-painted animals, and toys were scattered across a plush carpet. In the center sat an expensive crib with white lace curtains, and inside a beautiful baby with dark curls was crying softly. "She's been fussy since dinner," Mrs. Whitmore explained, her hands shaking slightly as she reached for the baby. "I've tried everything, feeding, changing, singing. Nothing works anymore." Maya approached slowly, observing how the baby's cries had a particular rhythm. She had learned over her 5 years of childcare that every baby had their own language. "May I?" she asked gently. Mrs. Whitmore nodded gratefully and handed Emma over. Maya held the baby close to her chest, swaying in a subtle motion she had perfected over countless nights with other families' children. She hummed a soft melody her own grandmother had sung to her years ago. Within minutes, Emma's cries softened to little hiccups, then to quiet breathing. "How did you do that?" Mrs. Whitmore whispered, staring in amazement. "Sometimes they just need to feel safe," Maya replied, continuing her gentle swaying. "Babies can sense our energy. When we're calm, they feel it too." Mrs. Whitmore's eyes filled with tears of relief. "I'll show you to your room," she said. "It's just down the hall. There's a baby monitor so you'll hear if she needs anything." Maya followed her to a guest room that was larger than the entire apartment she shared with her 2 roommates back in the city. The bed looked like something from a luxury hotel, with fluffy pillows and silk sheets. French doors opened onto a balcony overlooking gardens that stretched into darkness. "I can't thank you enough for taking this position," Mrs. Whitmore said. "The salary we discussed will be transferred to your account weekly, and please help yourself to anything in the kitchen. I'll be leaving early tomorrow for a charity board meeting, but I should be back by evening." After Mrs. Whitmore left, Maya unpacked her single small suitcase. She had learned to travel light in her line of work, never knowing how long each job would last. Her clothes looked humble hanging in the walk-in closet, but she had never cared much about fancy things. What mattered to her was the work itself, caring for children who needed her. Around midnight, Emma began crying again. Maya went to the nursery and found the baby standing in her crib, tears streaming down her little face. She picked her up and tried the rocking chair, but Emma continued to fuss. Maya walked around the room, tried different positions, sang different songs, but nothing seemed to work. By 2 in the morning, Maya was exhausted. She had been traveling since early morning to get to this job, and the long day was catching up with her. Emma had finally fallen asleep in her arms, but every time Maya tried to put her back in the crib, she would wake up crying again. Maya looked around the nursery and noticed a thick, soft rug beside the crib. She had an idea that she had never tried before but felt might work. Carefully, she gathered a few pillows from the rocking chair and made a small sleeping area on the floor. She lay down with Emma still in her arms, positioning herself where she could quickly respond if the baby needed anything. The moment Maya settled onto the floor, Emma seemed to relax completely. Perhaps it was the warmth of human contact, or maybe she felt safer being close to someone who cared for her. Whatever the reason, both Maya and Emma fell into peaceful sleep within minutes. This became their routine over the next few nights. Maya would start the evening trying to get Emma to sleep in her crib, but inevitably, they would end up together on the soft nursery floor. Maya didn't mind. She had slept in much worse conditions growing up in foster care. What mattered was that Emma was finally getting the rest she needed, and Mrs. Whitmore was able to sleep through the night for the first time in weeks. Maya never mentioned their sleeping arrangement to Mrs. Whitmore. She figured that as long as everyone was happy and healthy, the details didn't matter. She was being paid well to take care of Emma, and she was doing exactly that. The marble floors and crystal chandeliers meant nothing to her compared to the trust of a tiny baby who found comfort in her presence. Little did Maya know that someone else in the house had begun to notice her dedication, and that her simple act of sleeping on the nursery floor was about to change her life in ways she never could have imagined. 3 weeks into her employment at the Whitmore mansion, Maya had established a comfortable routine with little Emma. During the day, she would take the baby for walks through the extensive gardens, play with her in the sunny conservatory, and feed her in the bright kitchen while Mrs. Whitmore attended her various social obligations. But it was still the nighttime ritual that brought Maya the most satisfaction. Every evening around 9 o'clock, Maya would begin the bedtime routine. She would give Emma a warm bath in the marble bathroom adjoining the nursery, dress her in soft pajamas, and read her stories from the expensive picture books that filled the built-in shelves. Then would come the inevitable migration to the floor beside the crib, where both Maya and Emma found their deepest rest. Maya had grown comfortable with the arrangement, though she sometimes wondered what the other wealthy families she had worked for would think. She had been employed by executives, celebrities, and old money families, but she had never felt the need to sleep on a nursery floor before. There was something different about Emma, something that called to Maya's protective instincts in a way she had never experienced. What Maya didn't know was that someone had been watching her dedication. With growing curiosity and respect, Marcus Whitmore had returned from his latest business trip on a Tuesday night, exhausted from negotiations that had kept him in meetings across 3 different time zones. At 34, he had built his technology company from a small startup into a billion-dollar empire. But success had come at the cost of time with his family. He often arrived home after everyone was asleep and left before they woke up. That particular night, Marcus dropped his luggage in the master bedroom and noticed how quiet the house seemed. For weeks before he left, Emma's crying had been a constant background noise that stressed everyone in the household. His wife, Catherine, had been at her breaking point, and he had felt helpless to solve the problem from thousands of miles away. Curious about the unusual silence, Marcus walked quietly down the hall toward the nursery. The door was slightly open, and soft light from the hallway cast a gentle glow into the room. What he saw stopped him completely in his tracks. There, on the floor beside Emma's crib, lay a young black woman he had never seen before. She was curled protectively around his daughter, both of them sleeping peacefully. Emma's tiny hand was resting on the woman's arm, and both their faces showed the kind of deep contentment that Marcus hadn't seen in his daughter for months. Marcus stepped closer, careful not to make any noise that might wake them. He could see that the woman had carefully arranged pillows and a blanket to make the hard floor as comfortable as possible. Her clothes were simple and worn, completely different from the designer outfits worn by their previous nannies. But there was something about the scene that touched him more deeply than anything he had witnessed in years. He stood in the doorway for several minutes, watching the rise and fall of their breathing, noting how Emma seemed to instinctively move closer to her caregiver even in sleep. Marcus had paid previous nannies extraordinary salaries, provided them with luxury accommodations, and given them every possible benefit. Yet none of them had shown this level of personal investment in Emma's well-being. Over the next few nights, Marcus found himself making excuses to walk past the nursery around bedtime. Each evening he would discover the same scene. This mysterious nanny sleeping peacefully on the floor while his daughter rested better than she had in her entire short life. Marcus began asking Catherine subtle questions about the new nanny, but his wife was so grateful for the uninterrupted sleep that she didn't seem to notice anything unusual about Maya's methods. She's wonderful, Catherine would say. Emma adores her and she's so professional. I don't know what we would do without her. Professional, Marcus thought, but in a way that went far beyond what any job description could require. He began to observe Maya during the daytime hours as well, watching from his home office window as she pushed Emma's stroller through the gardens. He noticed how she would stop to let Emma touch flower petals, how she would sit on the grass and let the baby crawl around while keeping a careful eye on her safety. During phone calls in his study, Marcus would sometimes hear Maya singing to Emma in the next room. Her voice was gentle and melodic, and he found himself pausing his business conversations to listen. The songs were simple lullabies, some in English and some in what sounded like Spanish, all delivered with a warmth that filled the house with a feeling it had never had before. Marcus realized that in all his years of success, he had never witnessed such genuine care from someone who was being paid to provide it. His own childhood had been filled with hired help, who did their jobs competently but without real affection. His parents had been wealthy but distant, and he had grown up believing that money could buy excellent service but not authentic love, yet here was someone who was giving his daughter something that couldn't be purchased, true devotion that went beyond any employment contract. One evening, Marcus was walking past the nursery when he heard Emma crying. He paused, expecting to hear Maya's footsteps as she went to comfort the baby. Instead, he heard a soft voice from inside the room. "I know, sweetheart," Maya was saying. "You had a bad dream, didn't you? But you're safe now. I'm right here with you and I'm not going anywhere." Marcus heard the sound of someone settling back onto the floor, followed by gentle humming. Within minutes, Emma's cries faded into peaceful silence. Standing in the darkened hallway, Marcus felt something shift inside his chest. Here was a woman who was sacrificing her own comfort, night after night, for the well-being of his child. She wasn't doing it for recognition or praise. She probably thought no one even knew about her sleeping arrangements. She was doing it simply because she cared. For the first time in years, Marcus found himself questioning what truly mattered in life. All his wealth and success seemed suddenly less important than the simple scene he witnessed each night in his daughter's nursery. He decided it was time to meet this remarkable woman properly and to understand what motivated such extraordinary dedication. Friday morning arrived with unusual activity in the Whitmore household. Catherine had left early for a weekend retreat with her book club, and the regular housekeeping staff had the day off. Maya found herself alone in the massive house with Emma, enjoying the peaceful quiet that settled over the mansion when the usual bustle of staff and visitors was absent. Maya was in the kitchen preparing Emma's breakfast when she heard the front door open and close. She glanced at the clock. It was only 7:30 in the morning, too early for any scheduled deliveries or appointments. Emma was sitting in her high chair, happily making a mess with pieces of soft fruit, completely content in her morning routine. "Hello?" Maya called out, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. "Mrs. Whitmore?" Heavy footsteps echoed through the hallway, moving toward the kitchen. Maya instinctively moved closer to Emma's high chair, her protective instincts activated by the unexpected presence in the house. A man appeared in the kitchen doorway, and Maya's breath caught in her throat. She recognized him immediately from the family photos scattered throughout the house, but seeing Marcus Whitmore in person was entirely different from viewing his image in silver frames. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that looked like he had been running his hands through it and intense blue eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. He was wearing a wrinkled, white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up and dark pants that looked like part of an expensive suit. There was something about his appearance that suggested he had been traveling, a tiredness around his eyes, and a slight stubble that indicated he hadn't been home long enough to fully settle in. "You must be Maya," he said, his voice deeper than she had expected. "I'm Marcus Whitmore." Maya felt suddenly aware of her simple jeans and cotton t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and the fact that she probably smelled like baby food and finger paint. She straightened her shoulders and met his gaze directly. "Mr. Whitmore," she replied, extending her hand for a professional handshake. "I didn't realize you were expected back today. Mrs. Whitmore didn't mention—" "I wasn't supposed to be," Marcus interrupted, accepting her handshake. His grip was firm and warm, and he held her gaze with an intensity that made Maya feel like he was studying her. "My meetings in Singapore ended early," So I caught the first flight home. Emma, who had been contentedly playing with her breakfast, suddenly noticed her father. She squealed with delight and reached her sticky hands toward him, babbling in the excited way babies do when they see someone they love. Marcus's entire demeanor changed as he approached his daughter. His serious expression softened into genuine joy, and he carefully lifted Emma from her high chair, not seeming to care that she immediately grabbed his expensive shirt with fruit-covered fingers. "There's my beautiful girl," he said, his voice full of warmth as he kissed the top of Emma's head. "Did you miss Daddy?" Maya watched the interaction with surprise. From everything Mrs. Whitmore had said, she had gotten the impression that Marcus was a distant father, too busy with business to spend much time with his family. But the way he held Emma, the genuine happiness in his voice, and the way Emma responded to him suggested a strong bond between father and daughter. "She's been wonderful," Maya said, moving to clean up the high chair. "Very happy and healthy. She's been sleeping much better lately." Marcus looked up from Emma and Maya noticed something shift in his expression. There was a knowing look in his eyes that made her wonder if he was aware of more than she had assumed. "Yes," he said slowly. "I've heard she's been sleeping well. Catherine mentioned that you have a special touch with her." Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. Something in his tone suggested he might know about her unconventional sleeping arrangements, but she couldn't be sure. She decided to keep her response professional. "Every baby is different," she said. "I just try to pay attention to what Emma needs." Marcus continued to study her while Emma played with his tie, completely fascinated by having her father's attention. "And what do you think Emma needs?" he asked. The question seemed to carry more weight than a casual inquiry about childcare techniques. Maya considered her answer carefully. "Security," she said finally. "Consistency. Someone who's genuinely invested in her well-being, not just doing a job." She paused, then added quietly, "Someone who will be there when she's scared in the middle of the night." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, bouncing Emma gently as she continued to babble happily. When he spoke again, his voice was softer than before. "Catherine told me that Emma has been crying much less at night. She said it's like you work some kind of magic." Maya shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "I just do whatever works." Every child is different, and Emma just needed to feel safe and loved, even if it means sleeping on a nursery floor. The words hung in the air between them, and Maya felt her heart skip a beat. He knew. Somehow Marcus Whitmore knew about her sleeping arrangements, and now she was going to lose another job for being unprofessional. She lifted her chin, preparing to defend her choices. "Mr. Whitmore, I can explain," but Marcus held up his hand, stopping her words. His expression wasn't angry or disappointed. Instead, there was something that looked almost like admiration in his eyes. "You don't need to explain anything," he said quietly. "I've been watching you with Emma. I've seen how much you care about her, how you put her needs before your own comfort." He shifted Emma to his other arm and took a step closer to Maya. "When was the last time someone showed that level of dedication to your family?" The question caught Maya off guard. She had expected criticism or dismissal, not gratitude. She searched Marcus's face for signs that this was some kind of test, but all she saw was genuine appreciation and something else she couldn't quite identify. "I don't understand," she said honestly. Marcus smiled, and the expression transformed his entire face. "I think it's time we had a proper conversation about your position here, Maya. There are some things I'd like to discuss with you." Marcus suggested they move to the comfortable sitting room overlooking the gardens, where Emma could play safely on the soft carpet while they talked. Maya felt nervous as she settled into one of the elegant armchairs, still unsure about what this conversation might bring. She had learned from experience that unexpected meetings with employers rarely led to good news. Marcus sat across from her, Emma crawling between them as she explored her toys. He seemed different from the serious businessman Maya had imagined from Catherine's descriptions. There was a warmth in his manner and a genuine interest in his daughter that surprised her. "How long have you been working in childcare?" Marcus asked, watching as Emma brought him a stuffed elephant to examine. "About 5 years," Maya replied, relaxing slightly at the normal question. "I started right after I aged out of foster care. I was 18 and needed work, and I found I had a natural ability with children." Marcus looked up with interest. "Foster care?" Maya nodded, used to the curious looks this information usually generated from wealthy employers. "I was in the system from age 7 until 18. Multiple homes, different families. It taught me to be adaptable and to read people's emotions quickly. Those skills turned out to be useful with children. That must have been difficult, Marcus said, his voice gentle. Maya shrugged, not wanting to dwell on her past. It was what it was. Some homes were better than others. But it taught me what children really need. Consistency, patience, someone who won't give up on them when things get challenging. Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Emma had crawled over to Maya and was pulling herself up to stand using Maya's chair for support. Without thinking, Maya reached down to steady the baby, her movements automatic and protective. "That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about," Marcus said, observing the natural interaction between Maya and his daughter. "Your approach with Emma is different from any caregiver we've had before." Maya tensed, expecting criticism to follow. "Different in the best possible way," Marcus continued quickly, noticing her reaction. "I've been traveling constantly for business, and I've missed most of Emma's first year. When I'm home, I hear the crying, the stress, the exhaustion that everyone in this house has been feeling. But since you arrived, everything has changed." He leaned forward, his expression becoming more serious. "I know you've been sleeping on the nursery floor with Emma. I know you sacrifice your own comfort every night to make sure she feels secure. Do you have any idea how extraordinary that is?" Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks again. "I just do what works for her. She sleeps better when she's not alone, and I don't mind." "But you should mind," Marcus interrupted. "You're giving up a comfortable bed every night. You're going beyond any reasonable job requirement. Why?" The question hung in the air, and Maya found herself really thinking about her answer for the first time. Why did she care so much about Emma? Why was she willing to sleep on hard floors and rearrange her entire life around this baby's needs? "Because she deserves it," Maya said finally. "She deserves to feel safe and loved even when she's scared in the dark. She deserves to know that someone will be there when she needs them." Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "Every child deserves that, but not every child gets it." Marcus was quiet for a long time, watching Emma as she played contentedly at Maya's feet. When he spoke again, his voice was thoughtful. "I built my company because I wanted to provide security for my family," he said. "I wanted Emma to have everything I didn't have growing up. The best education, opportunities, a future without financial worry. But I've been so focused on building that security that I've missed something more important." Maya waited, sensing he needed to work through his thoughts. "I've been providing everything except the one thing she actually needs most. A parent who's present, who puts her emotional well-being first." He looked up at Maya with something that might have been regret. "You've been giving her what I should have been giving her myself." "Mr. Whitmore," Maya said gently, "it's not too late. Emma is still young and she clearly loves you. When you picked her up this morning, her whole face lit up." Marcus smiled at that. "She did seem happy to see me." She was. Children are forgiving. They live in the moment, and they respond to genuine love and attention whenever they receive it. They were interrupted by Emma, who had crawled over to Marcus and was trying to pull herself up using his leg. He reached down and lifted her onto his lap, where she immediately began exploring his shirt buttons with intense concentration. "Maya," Marcus said, his voice taking on a more formal tone. "I have a proposition for you." Maya's stomach clenched. Here it comes, she thought. The conversation where he tells me my services are no longer needed, or where he tries to change our arrangement in a way that won't work for Emma. "I want to restructure your position here," Marcus continued. "I want to make you Emma's permanent caregiver, with a significant salary increase and full benefits. I want to set up a proper bedroom for you in the nursery wing, designed however you think would work best for both you and Emma." Maya stared at him in shock. This was not what she had expected at all. "But more than that," Marcus went on, "I want to learn from you. I want to understand how to be the kind of father Emma needs. I've made the decision to step back from some of my business travel and spend more time at home. Would you be willing to help me figure out how to be better at this?" Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes. In 5 years of childcare work, no parent had ever asked for her guidance or acknowledged that she might have insights worth learning from. She was usually treated as helpful but replaceable staff. "You want me to teach you about your own daughter?" she asked, her voice slightly unsteady. "I want you to teach me how to love her the way you do," Marcus replied simply. "With that level of presence and dedication, Emma responds to you in a way she's never responded to anyone else, including me." I want to learn how to earn that kind of trust." Emma, as if sensing the importance of the moment, looked up at her father and reached out to touch his face with her small hand. Marcus caught her hand and kissed her palm gently. "What do you say, Maya?" he asked. "Will you help me learn how to be the father Emma deserves?" 3 months later, the Whitmore household had transformed in ways that surprised everyone, including Maya herself. True to his word, Marcus had converted a room adjacent to the nursery into a beautiful bedroom suite for Maya, complete with her own bathroom and a small sitting area. But more importantly, he had kept his promise to be more present in Emma's daily life. Maya woke up that Tuesday morning to the sound of laughter coming from the nursery. She smiled as she recognized Marcus's voice mixing with Emma's delighted squeals. Over the past few months, she had watched their relationship blossom from tentative interactions to genuine joy in each other's company. She found them in the nursery, where Marcus was sitting on the floor helping Emma stack colorful blocks. He was dressed for work in an expensive suit, but he didn't seem to mind that Emma had managed to get pieces of banana from breakfast on his jacket. "Good morning," Maya said, settling down on the carpet beside them. "How long have you two been up?" "About an hour," Marcus replied, grinning as Emma knocked down their block tower and clapped her hands in celebration. "She woke up talking instead of crying, so I thought we'd have some playtime before I head to the office." Maya watched as Emma crawled over to her favorite stuffed rabbit and brought it back to share with her father. The transformation in both of them had been remarkable to witness. Marcus had learned to read Emma's cues, to understand when she was tired versus when she was overstimulated, and to respond with patience instead of frustration when she was fussy. "I've been thinking about something," Marcus said, rebuilding the block tower while Emma watched with fascination. "My assistant called yesterday about the conference in Tokyo next month. It's a big opportunity, but it would mean being away for almost 2 weeks. Maya felt a familiar tightness in her chest. Over the months, she had grown attached to this routine, to the feeling of being part of something that mattered. The thought of Marcus returning to his old pattern of constant travel filled her with disappointment. She tried to hide. "That sounds important for your business," she said carefully. Marcus looked up from the blocks, studying her expression. "I told them I couldn't go." "What?" Maya's surprise was evident in her voice. "But if it's important, what's important is being here," Marcus said firmly. 6 months ago, I would have jumped on that plane without a second thought. I would have told myself I was doing it for Emma's future, for her security. But I've learned something these past months. Emma had crawled into Maya's lap and was contentedly playing with the wooden beads on Maya's bracelet. Maya absently smoothed the baby's curls while waiting for Marcus to continue. "I've learned that the most valuable thing I can give Emma isn't money or opportunities or a college fund," Marcus said. "It's my presence. It's showing up for the small moments, for bedtime stories and morning playtime and first steps." As if on cue, Emma pushed herself up to standing, using Maya's hands for support. She had been cruising along furniture for weeks, but in the past few days, she had been taking tentative steps on her own. "Speaking of first steps," Maya said with excitement, "show your daddy what you've been practicing." "Emma." Maya carefully helped Emma stand a few feet away from Marcus, then let go of her hands. Emma wobbled for a moment, looked back at Maya with determination, then took 3 unsteady steps toward her father before falling into his waiting arms. "Did you see that?" Marcus said, his voice full of wonder as he scooped Emma up and spun her around. "Did you see our brilliant girl walking?" Our girl. The phrase hit Maya with unexpected force. When had Emma become our girl instead of just his daughter and her charge? When had this job become something that felt more like family than employment? Maya realized that Marcus was looking at her with an expression she had never seen before. There was gratitude there and affection, but something deeper as well. Something that made her heart race and her cheeks warm. "Maya," he said softly, settling Emma between them on the carpet, "I need to tell you something else." The serious tone in his voice made Maya nervous. "What is it?" "Catherine and I are getting divorced." Maya felt the air leave her lungs. She had noticed that Mrs. Whitmore seemed happier lately, more relaxed, but she had assumed it was because of Emma's improved sleep and behavior. "I'm sorry," Maya said automatically. "Are you okay? Is Emma going to be okay?" Marcus smiled at her immediate concern for both him and the baby. "We're going to be fine. Actually, we're all going to be better than fine. Catherine and I married for the wrong reasons. Convenience, social expectations, family pressure. We care about each other, but we were never really in love. He reached over and took Maya's hand, his fingers warm and steady against hers. The divorce is amicable. Catherine will still be part of Emma's life, but we both agree that Emma is happiest here, with her daily routines and the stability you've helped create. Maya looked down at their joined hands, her mind racing. What does this mean for my position here? It means, Marcus said, his voice gentle but certain, that if you're willing, I'd like this to become permanent in every way. Not just as Emma's caregiver, but as part of our family. Maya's eyes flew up to meet his. Marcus, I don't understand. I think you do, he said softly. These past months, watching you with Emma, learning from you, seeing the way you've made this house into a real home, it's changed everything for me. You've changed everything for me, Emma, sensing the emotional weight of the conversation, crawled over to Maya and pulled herself up to standing, babbling happily as she played with Maya's necklace. I've fallen in love with you, Maya, Marcus continued, with your kindness, your strength, the way you love Emma like she's your own. I know this is complicated, and I know we come from very different worlds, but what we've built here together, it's real. Maya felt tears starting to gather in her eyes. Marcus, I'm not asking for an answer right now, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know how I feel and to ask if you might be open to exploring what this could become. Maya looked down at Emma, who was now contentedly sitting between them, playing with blocks as if her entire world wasn't shifting around her. In a way, maybe it wasn't shifting at all. Maybe it was just finally settling into what it was always meant to be. I need time to think, Maya said honestly. Marcus nodded, squeezing her hand gently before letting it go. Take all the time you need. Whatever you decide, Emma and I are better people because of you. As Maya helped Emma stack blocks and listened to Marcus getting ready for his day at the office, she realized that her simple job as a night nanny had become something she had never expected, a chance at the family she had always dreamed of but never believed she deserved. 1 year later, Maya stood in the same nursery where her story with the Whitmore family had begun. But everything had changed. The room had been redecorated with softer colors and more personal touches. Photos of family moments, artwork Emma had created with Maya's help, and books that showed the wear of being read countless times. Emma, now almost 2 years old, was chattering excitedly as Maya helped her get dressed for a special day. The little girl had grown into a confident, happy toddler who filled the house with laughter and energy. Her vocabulary was expanding daily, and her favorite word was Mama Maya, which never failed to melt Maya's heart. Daddy, Emma squealed as Marcus appeared in the doorway, already dressed in his dark suit for the day ahead. But today was different from his usual business attire. Today he wore a boutonniere of white roses on his lapel. There are my beautiful girls, Marcus said, his face lighting up as he entered the room. He scooped Emma into his arms and kissed the top of her head before turning to Maya with eyes full of love and anticipation. Maya smoothed down her simple cream-colored dress, still feeling slightly overwhelmed by the events that had led to this moment. 6 months after Marcus had confessed his feelings, Maya had finally found the courage to open her heart to the possibility of love. It hadn't been easy. Years of moving between foster homes had taught her to be cautious about getting too attached to any situation that seemed too good to be true. But Marcus had been patient, never pressuring her for more than she was ready to give. He had shown her through countless small actions that his feelings were genuine. He brought her coffee every morning exactly how she liked it. He listened when she shared stories about her difficult childhood. He supported her decision to take online college courses to earn her early childhood education degree, even arranging his schedule so he could watch Emma during her study time. Most importantly, he had never made her feel like she was just the nanny who had gotten lucky. He respected her insights about parenting, valued her opinions on household decisions, and made it clear that she was an equal partner in creating their family's life together. The turning point had come during Emma's first birthday party. Maya had been planning the celebration for weeks, designing decorations around Emma's love of butterflies and coordinating with the caterers for a menu that would work for both adults and toddlers. As she watched Marcus playing with Emma in the garden while their friends and family celebrated around them, she realized that this was where she belonged. That evening, after the guests had gone home and Emma was sleeping peacefully in her crib, Maya had found Marcus cleaning up in the kitchen. Without saying a word, she had walked over to him and kissed him, finally ready to stop fighting the feelings that had been growing in her heart for months. Now, standing in the nursery getting ready for their wedding day, Maya could hardly believe how much her life had changed. The scared young woman who had been sleeping on nursery floors to comfort a crying baby had discovered that sometimes taking care of others was actually the path to finding everything she had been missing. "Are you ready for this?" Marcus asked softly, reaching out to take her hand. Maya looked around the room where their love story had quietly unfolded. She thought about all the nights she had slept on that floor, never imagining that her simple act of caring would lead to this moment. She thought about Emma's first steps, her first words, all the bedtime stories and morning cuddles that had woven them together into a family. "I've been ready my whole life," Maya said honestly. "I just didn't know what I was getting ready for." Marcus squeezed her hand and kissed her forehead gently. "Neither did I." Emma, who had been patiently waiting in her father's arms, suddenly reached out toward Maya with both hands. "Mama Maya," she said clearly, "pretty dress." Maya laughed, feeling tears of happiness threatening to spill over. "Thank you, sweetheart. You look pretty beautiful yourself." Emma was wearing a tiny white dress with butterfly appliques that Maya had specially ordered, and she had a small basket of rose petals that she would scatter as she walked down the aisle ahead of them. The ceremony would be small and intimate, held in the garden where Maya had spent so many peaceful afternoons watching Emma explore and learn about the world. Marcus had wanted to give Maya the wedding of her dreams, complete with hundreds of guests and every luxury imaginable. But Maya had asked for something simple, just the people who mattered most to them in the place where they had built their love together. She wanted Emma to be the flower girl, Marcus's parents to walk her down the aisle since she had no family of her own, and vows that spoke honestly about the unexpected ways love could enter your life. "The photographer wants to take some pictures before we head downstairs," Marcus said. "Are you ready?" Maya nodded, taking Emma's hand as they prepared to leave the nursery. As they reached the doorway, she turned back for one last look at the room where everything had started. The expensive crib was still there, though Emma now slept in a toddler bed in the room next door. The rocking chair where Maya had spent countless hours feeding and comforting Emma sat by the window. And there, beside the crib, was the soft area rug where Maya had first discovered that sometimes the most extraordinary things grew out of the simplest acts of love. "Thank you," Maya whispered to the room, to the universe, to whatever force had guided her to this family when they all needed each other most. As they walked down the grand staircase together, Marcus, Maya, and Emma, Maya reflected on how different her life looked now from anything she had ever imagined. She had started out looking for a job that would pay her bills and keep her housed. Instead, she had found a home, a family, and a love that had taught her she was worthy of all the happiness she had never dared to dream possible. The scared young woman who had once slept on nursery floors was about to marry the man she loved, adopt the daughter who had already claimed her heart, and step into a future filled with the security and belonging she had searched for her entire life. Sometimes, Maya realized, the most beautiful stories began with someone simply deciding to stay awake through the dark hours, ready to comfort whoever needed them most. Her willingness to sleep on that nursery floor had been about so much more than helping a baby sleep through the night. It had been about love, commitment, and the courage to give everything you had to someone who needed you. Now, walking toward her wedding ceremony with her soon-to-be husband and daughter, Maya understood that the best things in life often came to those who were brave enough to lie down their pride, their comfort, and their own needs for the sake of caring for others. The African-American nanny who had slept on the nursery floor had found her happily ever after, not because someone rescued her, but because she had learned that true love was built through thousands of small moments of choosing to put someone else's well-being first, and in giving that love freely, she had discovered she was worthy of receiving it in return.